Test, test. In this series of videos, I'm going to teach you how to make a game that plays like the first Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo Entertainment System. And in this video, I'm going to start by teaching you how to make an enemy that works like a Goomba. So I'll start by creating a level, and I'm going to call it Mario 1 Goomba. So now I'll open up my level, and I'm going to start by dragging out some ground, a player, and an enemy. And I'll resize the ground. Put the player and the enemy on it, and then we'll play it. And so our enemy doesn't do anything by default, so we're going to make them work just like a Goomba. So we'll do that by scripting the enemy. And the first thing that we're going to do is make him walk at the start of the game, because that's what the Goomba does in the first level of Mario. So we'll do, at the start of the game, we want to trigger a walk left. And we're going to need 2 walk lefts because we want him to do it forever. So at the start of the game, he'll start walking left, and then he'll just keep looping that forever. And then for the duration, we can pick anything we want, but we'll just use, like, say, 99 seconds. It doesn't matter because it's just going to loop back and forth between those two. So now if we save and play this, see that he walks to the left, so that's good. And now we're going to make him actually do some damage to the player. So we're going to do a contact side event, and we're going to use the event system to actually make the player handle the damage himself. We could do the damage in the enemy script itself, but when we start getting into the more advanced features of Mario, like the power-ups and stuff, it's going to be beneficial to have the damage in one place on the player as opposed to having it on every enemy. So this will just help us out in the future. So we'll do a send event, and we'll call it damage. So now we need to listen for this event on the player. And so we add our custom event, and we just type in the same thing we did on the enemy. We type in damage, and then we'll do a take damage event function. And we want him to take 1 damage in this case. And even though in Mario you only have 1 life point to start, we're going to set it to something else. We'll set it to like 3 just because it'll be useful for testing, but then we'll set it back to 1 later. Alright, so now when we start, we have 3 life points, and when the enemy walks into us, we go down to 2. So normally in Mario, that would just kill you because you only have 1 life, but that was just useful to make sure it was working. So the next thing we'll do is the jumping on top of the Goomba, which is like probably the most memorable thing about the Goomba. So we gotta make sure that works well. So now we'll do the contact top event, and we're gonna use a send event here too. Because we need to push the player up. So in Mario, you don't just keep falling when you hit a Goomba, you sort of bounce off of it. So we have to send an event to the player to tell him that he needs to bounce off the Goomba. So we'll add another send event. And we'll call this one bounce. And we'll save that. And we'll add our custom event again. And we'll call it bounce, just like on the enemy side. And then the event function we want to use is push. And that lets us just push the player up into the air. And we'll use a value of 22 for the impulse. And we use a vector because it's a horizontal and vertical component to the push, but here we're just pushing up, so there's no x, it's just a y. So we'll save that again. And now when we jump on him, we sort of slow down a little bit, but it's not really the bounce that you're used to in Mario. And that's because the player is already falling really fast when he hits the Goomba. So the push just sort of slows him down. It doesn't bounce him up. So what we need is we need to stop the player before we push him. And we have a function for that called vertical stop. So we'll just add that in between receiving the event. So it just happens before the push. So now we'll try that again. And there, now we bounce off of them. But the other thing, when you jump on a Goomba, the key thing is that he gets removed from the game. So we want to do a remove. Save that again. And now if we jump on him, we bounce off and we remove him from the game. So that's how the Goomba from Mario works and how you implement it in Toy Engine.